Hi, everybody. Thanks for waiting. We have our special guest here, Florida attorney Sue Ann Robinson. It's such a pleasure and a privilege to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Sure, sure. Would you like to tell people a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I've been practicing for 18 years, primarily in federal and state court. I do civil litigation as well as criminal defense. I started my career as a prosecutor and then I went into private practice. My current practice is mostly consists of national civil rights cases and mass tort litigation. I do take criminal cases if I feel particularly strongly about the defendant and the defendant's case, which is a good place to be in your career. But my passion is civil rights, and I believe that it's the most important work of our time.
Sorry, had to unmute myself. Yeah, it sounds like such an interesting practice and career that you've had. How did you get in touch with Ben Crump?
I've known Attorney Crump for, I would say, 18 of my, probably when I was still a baby lawyer. And I was the president of the TJ Reddick Bar Association. And he was also very active in the bar, was president of National Bar. So that's initially kind of how we connected, just working on different initiatives together. And then probably since then, we've always been connected. And then I would say probably around 2016, 2017, we started working more closely together, co-counseling cases through Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, and all of those very notable times. And then I accepted to work in the firm as a managing attorney. And I guess the rest is history.
Yeah, and just looking at this, how'd you get involved with all these different TV shows?
Oh, okay. So in 2016, I was actually an anchor for a morning news show that is filmed in Miami, was filmed in Miami at the time. And so I would go to set at 4 in the morning, do hair and makeup, and then we would shoot live at 7 a.m., 7 to 8. And then I would come to the office and work. So I was already doing media on multiple platforms at that time. And then I was approached to work on Wrong Man, which was a dream experience for me because it ties together so much of my experience. Wrong Man was a 2-season show where we basically we reviewed people's cases that said they were wrongfully convicted. That's why it's called Wrong Man. And tried to find things in the cases that needed to be investigated more, evaluated more. So from that 2-season series, which had looked at 6 different defendants, two of the defendants actually were released from prison. So it's kind of like one of the high points of my career to have worked with that program because it changed people's lives. And I think it really helped to highlight a lot of the issues with the criminal justice system, and that some people, and to let people know, that they weren't forgotten.
Yes, it sounds like such important work that you've been doing. So, which brings us to the Shanquella Robinson case. I was so excited to finally see some news in this case because it seemed like nothing was happening. So,
Right.
what was going on behind the scenes in the last 2 years?
Yeah, it's been a crazy 2 years. Ever since I packed up my little bag and took myself to Mexico to get answers for the family. It's just been very tumultuous, I guess is the best way to describe it. Just a lot of moving pieces, just finding out, where the holdup is, where the dog leg is in the investigation, what needed to be done next, answering questions for the family, but most importantly, because a case like this involves accusations against our government, just making sure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted, which it took a while. And we also, during that 2-year period, if people are like up on the case, we did have a rally in DC. We did have a fundraiser for the family because they started a not-for-profit in Shanquella Robinson's name. They garnered a lot of support during that time because we also met with the officials in Washington, D.C. during that 2-year period. So we had high hopes at that time that litigation would not need to be filed at all. But based on the procedural posture of the case prior to us filing, we realized that if we didn't file, we would lose the opportunity to do so forever at the 2-year mark.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah. So you mentioned you went to Mexico. What did you do there?
I went to Mexico essentially because what was happening, just traditionally lawyering, contacting Mexico and contacting the State Department and contacting the FBI, was that everybody was kind of pointing fingers at everyone else and saying, well, I've done my job, it's this person, or I've done my job, you need to contact these people. And initially, it was the family that was being ping-ponged in that way. And I kind of agreed to be their advocate through that process, not knowing kind of how deep the process really would get, which is how I ended up in Mexico, physically going to the Attorney General's office, the funeraria, which is the funeral home, and the morgue, and all those places, including the villa, in order to try and put the pieces together in order to give the family better answers. Because as you know, and people who follow the case know, the social media attention and all the people who have a voice on the case help to bring the case to the forefront. But it also can harm because there was a lot of misinformation being shared about the case as well. And so in having the opportunity to meet directly with the Attorney General and the police who investigated the case, and being able to get copies of the actual file and see that the Mexican authorities have done their part, including sending all of the information, all the investigation to the State Department, and that the holdup is on our side. So then that makes it easier for us to continue the advocacy on behalf of the family because we know who to go to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you speak Spanish?
No. Well, aside from my kind of like 11th and 12th grade English class, a Spanish class, no, but I did have a translator, private investigator in armed security, and we were in a bulletproof car the whole time because, as you know, you never know. And obviously the case is very high profile in Cabo as well. Like, it's well known. And I don't think, not even myself, until I actually went, no one really expected an attorney or anyone to show up on Shanquella's behalf. But I felt that, her life was worth going and seeing and getting the information firsthand.
Yes, that's right. I couldn't even bring myself to watch the actual videos, but, just seeing pictures and reading about her and then what happened to her, you just can't help but feel so horrible and drawn to the case, to feel like something has to be done, to get some semblance of justice.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. I think your instincts is natural, because it is a horrible thing that we all witnessed, and what keeps me up at night sometimes is just how many times in instances that it's not captured,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the viewers has a question. Did you speak to the paramedics?
Yes, we did. And how we spoke to the paramedics was very serendipitous. We had the first couple of days were not very fruitful, very tough days. A lot of people kind of telling us no, trying to figure out like, who is this girl and who are these people and why are they here and what's going on? And because the paramedics' photos had been leaked online, they had the Mexican Red Cross logo on their clothes. And so I remember we were driving from the area where the villa was, and I was like, I just recognized that logo, the symbol. And then we stopped at the Mexican Red Cross office, and it just was the office where the paramedics that responded to the scene were. And, we had, of course, all the proper documentation to show that we were authorized to see the medical documents and talk to them. So we did. But even the paramedics in the case, they were receiving death threats and messages from people thinking that they were involved just based on still photos and things like that. So, but the paramedics who are photographed were just talking about arriving, her not having any vital signs, and them not being authorized to transport her, but them doing every single thing in their power to resuscitate her while they were on scene before the doctor announced her dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just looking at the complaint today,
Mhm.
and I mean, it sounded like the doctor needed consent from her friends to take her to a hospital or something. Is that true, or did I just kind of misinterpret that?
Right. Well, it's two things that are happening at the time that
Mhm.
we're trying to capture in the complaint, which is there is a language barrier and they are tourists in the town. And so the doctor is basically saying to the Cabo Six, you need to contact an ambulance to transport. I am a concierge medicine doctor who can tend to her here, but I have made an assessment, and based on my assessment, she needs to be transported elsewhere for further medical care. And the individuals are saying, just give her hydration. She's just dehydrated. So the doctor is attempting to kind of be responsive to what they're saying while also saying, yeah, okay, I've done those things. I've attempted to do those things, but it's time for an ambulance to come and transport her. So there comes a point when she has no vitals and the doctor is alone with her and one other person. And then finally at that point, the individual who's present is like, can you just take her in your car then? So there was a lot of discussion about how much it was going to cost and calling her mom, Shanquella's mom, Salamandra Robinson, and saying, oh, we're going to need money to transport her. We're going to need money for her to go to the hospital, which was one of the reasons I went when I saw the Mexican Red Cross logo, because I wanted to find out if that was a real issue, if that was a real thing. And the Mexican Red Cross does not charge anybody to be transported to the hospital. So the doctor in her statement advised that she actually called her supervisor and was like, hey, I'm trying to get them to contact the person who would be authorized to get the transportation here that I'm saying that we need. And they're not making the call. They're asking me to do other things. And her supervisor says, if they don't authorize an ambulance to come to transport her, then you need to leave. Like it got to that point, but the doctor, to her credit, in some way, she didn't, she kept trying to get them to say, okay, yeah, we'll get the ambulance. But by the time they did, when the ambulance did arrive, she had no vitals, and the ambulances are not permitted to transport someone with no vital signs.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So the friends totally misled the doctor claiming that she had just been drinking too much.
Right. There's nothing in the doctor's statement that says, oh, someone advised me there was a fight, she was beaten, she was hit. None of those things were mentioned by the doctor as something that was told to her to help her understand and give proper medical attention or care. If the doctor arrived on scene, to me, it would seem the first thing, or maybe the second thing, would be like, hey, if you think she has consumed too much alcohol, that's fine. But you also know of additional things that could be affecting her condition. And they were not disclosed.
That's right.
And because they were not disclosed, to in my opinion, that's a consciousness of guilt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, so another thing that I thought was interesting from the complaint was that Shanquella was kind of like a last minute addition to this trip. How well did she know these so-called friends?
Okay, so first, I never call them her friends. I always call them her travel
Oh,
mates
traveling.
on purpose,
Yes.
very specifically because of knowing that she was a last minute addition. She only knew one person on the trip, which was Khalil. They were close, and then there were supposed to be other individuals attending the trip who backed out at the last minute. So Khalil contacted Shanquella and asked her, because he knew that she traveled and she was kind of adventurous and fun, to come on the group trip because other people had dropped out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And is it true? Did she actually pay for the other people? Because I had read that.
That she paid for other people?
Yeah, for their trip or something to do with the travel cost. Maybe that was just a false rumor.
Yeah, I know she paid for herself. So how much she paid, what her total costs were, are only going to be known by the individuals there, because one of Dejanay was the person who was on the registration as the main, or Imani Green was the main person on the registration. So she would have been the person collecting the funds and then making payments to the actual concierge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have so many questions. I feel like I'm going to jump all over the place. But so what kind of jobs do these Cabo Six people have? Do they have assets?
I don't know anything about their assets per se, but I think they're just working as any average 20 somethings,
Uh-huh. Was it hard finding where they lived?
No.
Oh, okay.
They're not hiding.
Oh, okay. Isn't that strange? They seem pretty
As far as I
crazy.
know, the only person who changed their name was yeah, I describe it more as they didn't feel any pressure from United States authorities. And so they kind of felt like, well, whatever we told them, but obviously there's still questions that need answers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it looks like our connection might be a little bad because I couldn't hear you part of the time. But yeah, so it does seem like these people were these travel companions, they were so brazen. I couldn't believe that Shanquella's so-called best friend, Khalil, flat out lied to her mother and, went back repeatedly, supposedly to console her mother, right? I mean, what kind of person is this? You know, it seems like she knew him a long time. Oh no. Oh, great. Okay. So it looks like we're having connection problems here. Um, okay. So who shot the footage of the attack? That's a good question. I think it was in the complaint, which if I can't get the guest to come back on, I'm so sorry about this. Let's see here. Where is the complaint? Here it is. Yeah, it's on script D. Okay. So what they say? Okay, so she was a college graduate. She had different business endeavors. Let me see. Okay, so let's see. Are you there? Hi, can you see me? Okay, are you there? Okay, can you hear me? Okay, looks like we're having some.
Can you?
Yeah, I can sort of hear you. You just kind of
Okay.
blinked out a little. So,
Okay.
everything's okay.
Okay. I don't know.
Great.
I'm not sure what's going on.
Oh, okay.
My
Well,
internet
someone's
being weird.
asking who shot the footage.
Did I lose you? Okay, great.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. One of the travel mates. Oh, okay, great. One of the travel mates did the footage. Our belief, I guess, is that Winter is one of the people, but we believe based on the videos that at least 2 people were recording.
Okay. Yeah. So was it only Dejanay who physically struck her?
Based on the videos that we have, yes. And she was also Dejanay Jackson, aka Amani Green, was named in the Mexican warrant investigation as the person responsible for Shanquella's death. Nobody else was.
Oh, okay. Okay. So have all the defendants been served at this point?
We're in the process of that.
Okay. Yeah, because I was going to ask if the depositions have been done, but I guess it's
Yeah,
getting
we just actually
early.
were removed to federal court, so we're in the process of that.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, and the funny thing is that I saw you guys have a local attorney helping. So so I know the partner at that firm, D. Wallace. We used to be part of this Wake Women Attorneys group together. So, and I've
Cool.
spoken with another one of the attorneys just last week. So I was like, hey, small world, I know this firm. So
Nice.
it's cool.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
So
is a small world.
yeah. So what about the case against the government, though? I mean, I always had this impression that there's a lot of immunity going on, or, you know, it's really hard to win a case against government entities.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in the business of, my kind of mantra is that we want full justice, for our client, and it doesn't matter who the defendant is. So whether the defendant is the biggest corporation or the government, then we're gonna work to get full justice. So in terms of the State Department and the FBI, we just think that and believe, based on the facts, that there's a lot that could have been done and still needs to be done, especially with respect to extradition. And sometimes nothing gets people's attention better than strong legal argument. And the FBI and the State Department aren't immune. There's a form, you can file tort claims. We have a Tort Claims Act, a Federal Tort Claims Act. So, they're going to respond, and we're going to go through the process because we think that Shanquella's life is worth the fight.
Yes, that's right. CD Light wants to know if there was an autopsy. There was one, right?
Yes.
When they brought her back.
There was an autopsy done in Mexico the following day after she was killed, and by the Mexican authorities. And then about 2 weeks later, after her body had been embalmed and prepared by the funeraria and shipped back to the United States, then there was an autopsy done in Mecklenburg County.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and who had to pay for this? Did her parents have to pay?
Pay for which thing?
Oh, for this autopsy done for transporting her.
The autopsy done by Mecklenburg, I don't believe they did. I don't think there was cost associated with it. The issue is that her body had already been embalmed. So, I'm not a medical examiner or a STEM person by any means. This is my day job and my night job, lawyering. But obviously, if her body was already embalmed and filled with fluid so that it could travel, then the second autopsy would be compromised by the fact that it's not in the same condition as it was immediately after she passed away.
Okay.
And that's why in the complaint you could see I added parts of the autopsy, still preserving her privacy as much as possible, to show that it was a very in-depth, standard autopsy, just like we do in the United States. All organs, outside is examined, all internally, blood tests, etc. So 2 weeks later, after her body chemistry is going to be completely different, the Mecklenburg then did their own autopsy, and then the results of their autopsy was, we cannot determine a cause of death. Inconclusive. And the reason why it's going to be inconclusive is because the body's been compromised in the sense that it had already been prepared for burial. So if she had not been in that state, or if the FBI was involved earlier, then perhaps they would have had a different result in the autopsy. But we'll never know because of the negligence. So.
Yeah, and this I found shocking. This paragraph here where it says that they told you it would take over 5 years to get records.
Mm-hmm.
That just sounds totally insane to me. If this is, I mean, why would it take 5 years to get records? I mean, did they give any reason? Oh, it says it's because it's complex. Over 40 pages of potentially responsive documents. Well, I guess the stereotype is that the federal government is full of bureaucracy, but you wouldn't think it would take over 5 years to get some records.
Especially not when, the Mecklenburg FBI met with the parents in person. Whatever they had, they could have disclosed it at that time. They did not. They chose not to. So.
Oh. So, did the family retain Ben Crump's firm pretty quickly, or did they try to do it themselves first?
I don't know if they tried to do what they tried to do was find out what happened to their daughter, right? And then realizing that they were kind of running into brick walls, basically being told, oh, it's not our department, it's this other department. department, it's not us, it's this person, that's when they were like, we're going to need assistance, we're going to need advocacy.
Mhm. Yes. Does this pretty much reflect what you know, that Shanquella's neck was snapped, causing slow asphyxiation?
The Mexican autopsy indicates that she had a spinal cord injury that caused her death. And the Mecklenburg autopsy done after, which was a compromised autopsy in our opinion, states they cannot determine a cause of death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see. Wow, how terrible. Well, so how's the mother doing? Is she just like a complete emotional wreck now? I mean, I can't imagine having this happen.
Right. She's not doing well. I think some days are better than others. But what I hope kind of in my work to convey is that there's a word in the English language for when a child loses their parents, they're an orphan. And when a spouse loses their spouse, they're widowed. But there isn't a word in the English language for when a parent loses a child. There isn't such a word. And so the fact that a word doesn't exist to describe it tells me that it's such a hard thing. It's such an unimaginable pain. And then at the same time, she also has to be fighting for justice for her daughter while going through something that the English language doesn't have a word for. So it's a
Yes,
very difficult time.
yes. Did Shanquella have any brothers or sisters?
Yes, she has this older sister, Quill Long, who's an amazing advocate for her sister, and she's the one who initiated, along with a group of Shanquella Robinson's friends, the initiative for the SBR Foundation, a not-for-profit in her name. So she does have a sister who's going through the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Did Shanquella grow up in Charlotte or Winston-Salem?
In Charlotte, and she went to school in Winston-Salem.
Mm-hmm. I see. Yeah. Um, so just getting back to the day in question, though. Well, so at least a couple of people just took out their phones and started recording this horrible beating. Then who was it that actually put it onto social media?
Well, under information and belief, we think that it was uploaded onto Snapchat. So we've indicated in the complaint who we believe to do it. But again, this is information that if the FBI did a thorough investigation, it could have been disclosed to the parents so that they would not have questions about these things still.
Okay. Well, I think I'm too old to understand the social media stuff, but
Me too.
is Snapchat just amongst a small group of people, or is it public?
I guess whoever the followers are can see it, so it's public.
Oh, okay.
I
So
could
is it sort of like Instagram?
Yes, that's how it's been explained to me.
Okay. Yeah, I've never used it before, so yeah.
Yeah, I have
See.
a teenager, so she tries to keep, she uses the apps for whatever. I just monitor and make sure there's nothing weird on it, but I'm not on Snapchat myself posting anything.
Yeah, I see. Although you are on Instagram, so is that your Instagram handle? Not
Yes.
just a lawyer.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. How did you choose that name, not just a lawyer?
Well, at that time when I went onto Instagram or was advised to, right, because I wasn't going to just do it on my own, I was also doing a lot of multimedia doing TV and doing different things. And also just even in my casework, I do build a strong relationship with each of my clients. And I'm a mom and, just all the things that I had going on. I didn't want my name to just be Sue Ann Robinson, lawyer or Esquire or whatever, because I felt like if we were going to use Instagram is used to kind of document your life, I didn't plan on just putting things about myself as a lawyer. So that's kind of how I came up with it.
Great. Okay. Well, hopefully people will follow you on Instagram then. Yeah. So, so what's next with the case then? I guess you mentioned people will still have to be served with the lawsuit.
Yes. Once everybody is served, then they'll have their appropriate time for them to respond to the complaint. And then we'll go from there. I mean, there's nothing, this part I can do. Going to Mexico and dealing with all the stuff that was there and kind of navigating that was different. Outside of my comfort zone, obviously, as a lawyer to kind of manage a case, but I felt compelled to do so just as a mom as well. And as a Black woman, I wanted to make sure that every rock was uncovered. And so that's why I felt compelled to go. But, the litigation part, in a courtroom and things like that, I kind of have more of an idea of what balls and strikes will be made. Obviously, you never know kind of how the court will rule on certain things, but we definitely put our best foot forward with respect to the complaint because Shanquella's life was worth it.
That's right. Yeah. This commenter says that one of the killers had a sister in law enforcement. Do you know about that?
I've heard that people have said that on different platforms, and it's something that's been discussed. I am not aware of that being a reason for the delay, but
Yeah.
it's possible.
Okay. Well, I'm just thinking, hopefully, with more publicity, maybe more people will come out of the woodwork to give some good information about this case. So how could people contact you if they might have helpful information?
Yeah, they can absolutely send me a direct message on Instagram. That's the easiest way because we have a whole team that checks them every day. So that's the easiest way. Or on Facebook, it's the same thing on Facebook at Not Just a Lawyer as well. That's the easiest way to get me.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, it seems like you have a nice team of people all helping you because you probably get bombarded by tons of messages. Yeah. Can you tell us what other types of cases you're working on?
I'm currently working on a case with some parents in Beverly Hills. Their students have advised that they're experiencing discriminatory and threatening behavior from other students. So we're working on kind of making an assessment of that situation and going into next steps. But I think that every student deserves to be in a safe, welcoming environment. So, and I've said, and I always say that I believe that equality for all and civil rights is the most important work of our time.
Yeah, that's right. There are so many gripping cases and situations throughout the whole country. So it's great that you're here as part of the team to, help out with these civil rights cases. Let's see. Oh, okay, so people are appreciating you coming here to talk about Shanquella.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for having me, Judy.
Sure, sure. Well, lots of luck to you all Sorry about my voice. I might have mentioned that I had something like Botox injections last week, and it's supposed to help my voice tremors, but it's definitely made my voice a lot weaker. So I normally don't even sound this bad, I don't think, but it seems like I'm just becoming like an old, just like aging and having vocal problems and stuff, which really stinks. So yeah. So what kind of feedback have you had about this case? Like, have a lot of people contacted you?
I mean, mostly people communicate, support. Of course, there's always like, outliers or people that don't understand the purpose of the case, or the bigger issue in the case is that if someone hurts a loved one overseas and can come back to the United States and say, I'm on base and not be prosecuted, that's not just a problem for Shanquella Robinson's family. That's a problem for all Americans, because no one should be allowed to harm another American citizen overseas and then come back to the United States and kind of say, oh, I'm not going to get prosecuted for it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's too big of a loophole that affects everyone.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah. So that kind of relates to this question. Did you learn something new about how to deal with Mexican policies?
Oh, sure. I wouldn't say I learned something new. I definitely learn or lean on a lot of skills that we don't learn in law school per se, because you have to always be thinking ahead, preparing, be very strategic, have an idea of kind of what you want to present, but also just be human, have people skills and being willing to listen and understand, because a lot of the communication was through a translator, and they're of course suspicious, I guess, initially, of like, because they've gotten bombarded with inquiries, they've had information about the investigation leaked and things like that. So it's just trying at that time, doing my best to kind of convey and advocate for the family in the most compassionate way and the most sincere way. And because I felt the case, and because I strongly believe in, getting justice for Shanquella, it wasn't a stretch for me, which kind of goes back to what I was saying at the beginning, which is just being at a point in my legal part of my career to be able to say, I'm very passionate about this case. I'm very passionate about what happened to this family, and that's why I want to pursue it. It's such a blessing and an honor to be able to do that.
Yes, and we haven't talked much about Shanquella's father. Have you been in touch with him too?
Yeah, Mr. Robinson.
Yes, how's he doing?
I think the same. I think there isn't a way to describe when a parent, and just because, unfortunately, in a lot of my cases, even in our wrongful death cases, we're meeting or getting to know, I am learning my clients through their family, because I've never gotten the opportunity to meet them in person or to know them. So getting to know someone through their parents' eyes after they're deceased is very different than obviously meeting them in person. But you have ups and downs in that grief process.
Yes, and I think you mentioned, isn't there some sort of foundation that her family set up?
Yes, it's a not-for-profit. It's called SBR, Shanquella. It's Shanquella's name. And basically the not-for-profit's kind of goals are to, because Shanquella also braided kids' hair and like worked with children, so they have some initiatives to like donate and help kids who are underprivileged get ready for prom and back to school and things that she was kind of passionate about in her life.
Okay, so how can people find it and support this group?
Well, the easiest way to do that would be to go onto Miss Mondi's Instagram, which I don't have.
Okay, because there seem to be a ton of Instagram accounts that were trying to cover the case, and
Yes.
it's kind of hard to decide like which one is legitimate.
Yes, I totally. I'm gonna work on giving you the right one. Hold on one second.
That's great because there's just so much to look
Because
through.
it has a blue check.
Okay.
Mondi, Mondie Robinson, which we have the same name, but we are not related.
Okay, I'm sure everybody keeps asking you. So, okay,
yeah, I always say we're like family now because we've been together for 2 years and some change.
Yeah. So this is on Instagram, you said? Oh, okay. So we should check that out then for people who want to know the news. What about Facebook? Is there some sort of official Facebook group?
There isn't a Facebook group that the family is running.
Okay. Yeah. Just want to know about that.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'm sorry I have to get going also. I'm sure you have tons of cases to deal with too. Seems like you're a very busy person. So
yeah,
really appreciate it.
No problem at all. Keep going, okay?
Yes, I'm happy to cover the case. So feel free to just keep me informed. And hopefully my voice will be better next time.
It will. My mom had thoracic surgery, so she went through that. She had to do PT and she had shots and stuff. So it takes a while, but be gentle with yourself. You'll recover.
Yeah. At least I could just stick to writing stuff instead of talking on YouTube then. So yeah. Well, thank you so much for all your work, helping all sorts of people and, fighting for these just causes. So really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for using your platform for this. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, we'll be in touch. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Okay. Have a good day. Bye.